I don't understand that. Like, what's the purpose of piling a bunch of stones in a circle in some field somewhere? It's so strange.
It was Sunday night, October 22nd, 1967, Charleswood, Manitoba, Canada. The first sighting took place at 6:45 p.m. when a Westdale woman, from her window, observed a strange brightly lit object hovering over a house across the street. At the same time, another homeowner and his wife saw the lights, which were now a red color. They moved at a great speed and changed shape and seemed to form a figure 7. 2 streets over, a salesman and a saleswoman, the Winnipeg Free Press opted not to include the names of all the witnesses, were readying to close up their office, which was situated in a new subdivision of several hundred recently built or still under construction houses. Some were in the very early stages of construction, with only the basements dug out so far. Across from the 5 main show homes was a vacant plowed field. To the west of one of the houses is a triangular field separated from the houses by a street and a drainage ditch. This was the field where the sighting took place. The salesman was returning from one of the houses, readying to close up, when he noticed directly ahead, in the field about 250 yards away, 2 small purplish red lights tilted at an angle of 45 degrees. The distance between them was about 150 feet. The first light was stationary and appeared to be suspended in the air about the height of a telephone pole above the field. The light on the right seemed to be stationary on or slightly above the ground. The man walked closer and then saw a third light, a little brighter, that appeared on the surface of a field between the first 2. There was no sound. The saleslady joined him on the front lawn to watch. The lights then blossomed to a diameter of 2 or 3 feet and began to pulsate, brighten, and dim at 2 or 3 second intervals, but not in sequence with each other. As they watched, the lights started moving again, at times converging on the couple ominously, and then retreating to their original positions in the air. Remembering that he had binoculars in his car, the salesman rushed to retrieve them. As he neared his car, he looked up and spotted another car approaching down the road. He immediately flagged them down and pointed out the strange light show to them. Intrigued, the vehicle's occupants, 2 men, 2 women, and 2 small girls, hurriedly got out of the car and stood watching the pulsating lights. At that moment, a 5th light dropped down through the clouds. It hung under the clouds almost straight above them, casting a rosy glow on the clouds above it. The other lights started to drift about 100 feet northward. The witnesses were all astonished. As it turned out, 19 people around Charleswood that evening observed these strange lights. As Charleswood residents stood watching the sky, they took notice of something else appearing in the clouds. Airplanes. They were initially heard and then seen flying about. One plane passed directly over the heads of the group at the subdivision, right below where the remaining object was hovering moments earlier. As if reacting to the arrival of the military, the strange lights quickly changed places, forming a geometrically perfect triangle. The transition was so fast and smooth that it was almost like a trained response maneuver. Led by the first light, the tip of the triangle as it were, they began moving out over the highway, dipping and bobbing in unison as they moved along. When they reached a hydro line, they broke off formation and came back together again, this time in a single line, the wires lighting up as they sped over them. They were then observed to stop briefly over a TV broadcasting tower before carrying on towards the northwest. The Winnipeg Free Press does not give any other details if the military planes on the scene gave chase or not, but it can be assumed that they did.
I wasn't able to find any information about what happened with regards to these planes that showed up, these military planes. Did they follow these objects? Did they even know they were there? I just, the newspaper clipping and stuff didn't mention anything about what happened with regards to these military craft that showed up on the scene.
The very next morning, the salesman and a foreman went out to the field to see if they could find anything strange. When the salesman had initially observed the crafts, one was hovering over a steel flagpole, promoting one of the show homes, while the other two were very low or on the ground inside the field. He wondered if something was happening in that field and was hoping that he and the foreman could find something to back up his hunch. It wasn't long before the two men would discover something that would leave them scratching their heads. Out in the field, the two men discovered a small pile of stones placed in a circular heap. More curious, around them were small footprints leading to and from the pile of stones. There was something strange about the prints. A few yards away, the men discovered 3 areas about 30 to 40 feet apart, where the footprints were concentrated in a circle of about 2 yards. It is unclear if one of the men, either the salesman or the foreman, was ex-military, but one of them got the sense from looking at the movement of the footprints that the area with the concentration of prints might have been an extraction point. It was as though they were all crowding to get into or onto a ladder or stairs of their craft. From the 3 trampled areas, sets of footprints in straight lines radiated out from a distance of 60 or 70 yards, always in pairs. They guessed that there were at least 8 sets of tracks. The prints were about 7 inches long and about 2 3/4 wide. But the oddest thing was that they, whatever they were, all walked the same. The heels pressed deeper than the toes. To the men, it appeared that no ankle movement was present. Where the soil was wetter, the prints came to a point at the toes. The heels left a rounded depression with a Cuban heel impression, one of them noted. They estimated their weight to be about 40 to 50 pounds each.
So the witnesses claim that these objects made like a figure 7, and then later they made a triangle shape, and then they did a straight line, and then the salesman later found out in the field there, he found these stones piled in a circle. It kind of makes you wonder with all these shapes if these entities were possibly trying to send some type of a message. I don't know.
The longer the two men remained in the field, the more ill they began to feel. When the foreman bent over to examine the pile of stones more closely, he noted that his head began to hurt. That headache continued while they were in the field. Later that night, before going to sleep, the salesman noticed that his face and hands were hot, as if by windburn or sunburn. The next day, his legs ached. He could not understand why. Adding to his troubles, his car, which had been parked near him when the two objects moved toward him, and the saleswoman ominously suddenly would not turn over after turning the key. He had to try multiple times before it kicked alive. This became part of his routine for the next 3 weeks, fighting with his car to start. Then one day, it stopped. The car began performing as normal. Whatever was seemingly ailing it had vanished. Then, for about a month, through Christmas, he noticed that his thighs felt abnormally warm. This abruptly changed into a cool feeling when January rolled around. Eventually, he purchased a compass to check for magnetism, and found that everything in the location where the objects were assumed to have landed, and prints were found, was highly magnetized. The steel flagpole promoting the show home was especially magnetized, as was his car. The curious thing he noted was that everything was magnetized on the side facing the 5 objects. He found that his non-magnetic watch and a nail file were also affected. On December 10th, he looked at his tongue in the mirror and was horrified to see that it was a yellowish-greenish color. He immediately went to his doctors. Tests of his blood showed a significant drop in white blood cell count. He also recalled that both he and the saleslady were very thirsty after the sighting. Some days after his initial checkup, he lost his sense of taste, or so it seemed. Everything he ate tasted the same, or there was a taste of copper or metal in his mouth. The doctor said that the tongue coating was caused by dehydration. The Royal Canadian Air Force and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police looked into the case. The RCAF attempted to pass off the sightings as nothing more than 4 Otter aircraft, though the witnesses balked at this as they would have been over Charleswood and out of sight within minutes. The objects observed by the 19 witnesses hovered, changed formation, moved up and down, glowed, changed colors, etc. Whatever these things were, they were not conventional aircrafts. The Canadian Aeronautical Research Organization, or CAPRO, eventually learned of the case and carried out their own investigation, much of which was included in the October 24, 1967 Winnipeg Free Press write-up. Joan Reitenauer, in the September 1968 edition of the Saucer Scoop magazine, regretted the fact that the proper authorities or a responsible UFO organization were not notified at the time of the sighting, as they could have carried out a proper immediate investigation, including radiation testing, footprint casting, collection of soil samples and other materials, i.e. the pile of stones, and treatment of those whose health was affected by exposure to something clearly dangerous. This is one reason why publicity should be given to local groups so that the witnesses know where to go for help in instances of this kind.
What were these beings doing out there in the field? Were they gathering samples? It sounds like they were piling stones in a circle, but to what end? Why would they do that? I don't understand that. Like, what's the purpose of piling a bunch of stones in a circle in some field somewhere? It's so strange. I wish there was a follow-up to this case. I wanted to know, was anyone else affected? Did the salesman's health continue to decline? Did he have any more issues? Did anyone else that was there, any of the 19 witnesses, also have health issues? I'd love to know, that information. I'd love to know, what became of them. But of course, I couldn't find anything else about this case.